to peek a little bit into our ball and take a look at the stories that will make headlines in the course of this week, and of course a backdrop with some of the stories that have been making headlines. And for that I'm joined by David Ohito, who's our digital affairs editor, and he's joining us from our Kisumu office. David, good evening. I hope you've had a great Sunday. It's good to have you with us. All right.
Thank you very much, Yvonne.
Sorry about that.
We've had a very great Sunday so far.
Good. Let's talk about the big story that broke towards the end of last week and that may dominate the news next week. And it's all about the withdrawal of, or rather, the reduction of the bodyguards for VIPs, who include governors as well. How's this likely to play out? We understand that Joho has told he'll be arrested by midnight tonight if he doesn't release the rest of his firearms.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. I think that's a pertinent issue that is running across the country now. But let's remind Kenyans that we have two levels of government. We've got the national government and we have the devolved governments, which are run by the counties or the governors. And you know, and there's what is allowed in law as county policing. So when you try and affect the way the governors have been operating, it's a very absurd way. And I think we have very pertinent questions for the good general that Nkaiseri has been. We expected him to bring on board a world view of security operations, best practices of world security, and some of the things that can resonate very well with our systems of government. But to try and force governors to surrender their security without giving them an alternative, I think is preempting a very big problem for the country. These guys who are 47 governors are running a lot of serious government issues across the country. They manage the counties, they manage resources, they take care of the people. And if you don't give them enough security, what you're saying is that the governors can spend money to hire militias. And that is not where we want to go. I'm pretty sure we can do better.
All right, David, so how will this play out? Who's going to blink first in the course of this week? The police have said it's not a withdrawal of security for VIPs. It's scaling it down, rationalization, redeployment, if you like. Is this going to be one of those issues that just dies down? Do we expect to hear a more robust statement from the councillor?
I think, of course, Governor Munya, the chair, the guy we know, we have experienced him in the political arena for a long time, must be preparing that hard-hitting statement coming very soon. And I think also alongside, he has a lot of goodwill from the 47 governors. And they're going to stand up and say, I think enough is enough. And in any case, they're saying also, they have been saying underwaters, why not devolve security? If you have devolution, we manage these counties, we manage these regions, we know the problems, we know the thieves, we know the weak areas. Give it to us, we will manage it better. But
so you see this,
the absence
David? David,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. So you see this conversation as leading to a push by the governors to have security devolved?
They've been saying it for a very long time. Why should I manage health? Why should I manage agriculture? Why should I manage water? Why should I manage every other thing else? But you don't want me to manage security, yet I'm taking care of people who are Kenyans, the taxpayers. They keep asking us, there is insecurity. And we keep saying, we don't have enough people. In cases of marginalized counties, Mandera, for example, they did a specific support for security services and hired what we call police reserves because the government could not address security issues effectively.
Okay, all right. Let's also talk about another big one. Corruption is on the minds of Kenyans right now, and that, shall we say, troublesome Tunoi Tribunal. The sittings, do we expect those this week?
Yes, there's been waiting, and I think the faster they get to the work, the better. because I think the bigger issue is not just the tribunal, is that Kenya is closely working towards what we call a constitutional crisis. I've had conversations with very experienced lawyers, senior counsels, lawyers of good standing and good practice of several years, and they are saying with 17 months to an election, you need to have a solid Supreme Court in place, you need to have the quorum of judges in place, and you need to have the surety that we can have a bench that in the unlikely or likely event that there is a runoff in an election, it can be resolved. So the to-know issue is just one of the balls running around the country. And I think what they are saying, I spoke to the new of LSK, Kohito, Ohito, and he says it is one of the pricking issues that this country needs to deal with firmly and effectively before we get to the general election.
Okay, talk to us a little bit about some of the court cases that we expect. There's already been an attempt, just focusing around the constitution of the tribunal and who chairs it and whether it is constituted according to law. When do you think, if you look into our crystal ball right here on Checkpoint, are we likely to see any court cases, if any, challenging the constitutionality of the tribunal?
There have been so many schools of thoughts. I'm not very well grounded in matters of law, but there's one issue that once you took Justice Philip Tunoy to go to before a tribunal, it means the J and the state accepted that he is fit enough to be a judge, even having served beyond age 70, which is written on our letters of the Constitution. And that itself is a problem that we can park aside. But there have been very many other attempts by several people in civil society to try and poke holes into the kind of tribunal that we are trying to deal with. But the bigger issue is that could the bribery of 200 million shillings for one judge affect the decision and the conscience of the rest of the bench that sat and made a decision on this matter? I think that's a big question that going forward we have to question. Is the entire Supreme Court, the biggest court on land and the highest court on land, is it Caesar's wife? Are they beyond reproach? Were any other judges also enticed into making decisions? Those are the begging questions that Kenyans are asking for.
Right, and what they'll be hoping to hear from that tribunal. We hope the sittings will begin soon. Finally, the president is reorganizing himself and his staff. We heard of Nzioka Ohito, who's now the deputy chief of staff at State House. Are we likely to see more, or, not necessarily within State House, or, in terms of 2017, many people reading a lot more into this?
Very interesting question, Yvonne. But I think what's coming from the private sector, the corporate sector, the best performing companies that Safaricom has a lot that he brings on board. But I think from where he has been until up to the few days before he was appointed Deputy Chief of Staff at State House, he was that operational power and freedom to really exercise and bring on board these things that he did in the private and corporate sector. I think the president has realized that we are getting close to an election and he needs to trigger the promises that he made to the people. People are asking, where are the laptops you promised us? Where are these roads you said? The people of Kericho asked very many questions, and it was a major agenda during the by-election for senatorial seat. And these are some of the flagship projects that they claimed they were selling through. So the big question is, can they be delivered? What can be delivered in the next 16, 10, right. 5, 8 months? Right. Those are the big questions that Ohito will face.
Indeed, and delivery is what is in his mandate, and I suppose that is something that is very important. President going into 2017. Thanks very much. David Ohito, who's our digital editor, joining us from our Kisumu office. It was fun looking into our crystal ball. Let's do this again next Sunday. You're watching Checkpoint. We have the sports news next.